All right. So I think we've set the table here. We've talked a little bit about how you prepare to do this, but let's delve into this fully fledged. So if you want to rig a blackjack game at a casino in your favor, how does that idea hit you? Where did you come up with this, that this was something you wanted to put 50 to 60 hours in?
I mean, I was ready to a lot more because to reach the actual like statistical advantage over the casino with the bankroll that I was going into, and like to see an actual rate of return, it was looking like 200 hours of play. That's 200 hours of sitting there under massive amounts of scrutiny and everything else. So it was a pretty big undertaking. But like I said, I just studied. I was watching these YouTube videos and kind of researching it as much as possible. And I got involved on this website and just started training for it. And, you know, it was just a place for me to put money for a while. I guess it was just some new revenue generating stream. And yeah.
So, okay, I know you did that, but it's not like you just did this all on your own. What is the community like surrounding this process, this hobby? I don't know what you call it, this tactic. What is this? Is it a feel? I mean,
so we can set this. It's I'll name drop him once, but it's a guy, Colin, and he runs this website, Blackjack Apprenticeship. He actually has an interesting backstory, and that's what kind of intrigued me too, is that his is actually church and community based.
No.
It is a group of Christians, and they've had a documentary made about them. I think it's called Holy Rollers. I did watch it on Amazon Prime, but it's actually, he's like a Christian. It's community based. And, you know, he kind of looked at it and saw that wherever casinos go, the community suffers. They never give back to the community. It is not good paying jobs they bring to the community or anything like that.
Wow. And I did have in my notes, like, are there nicknames in this community? And like, clearly not, because Colin, the Christian card counter, the 5 C's, is about as good as it gets. Did you meet him?
I talked to him on the phone. I did speak with him on the phone for about a half hour. He makes himself available. I mean, it is great training, and you as part of the the education you're buying, you have access to a database of casinos, and they list what the deck penetration is at those casinos, what rules they play by. You have all these forums and boards that you're talking to people about different pitfalls. You can arrange training and testing out. So that's kind of one of the things that you do before you actually take it to the casino, is that you use their software. You're studying, you're playing games online, and it tests you. It'll stop you. You play through a full six deck of cards shoe, and it stops you. It says, what's the count right now? What's the true count right now? And it'll throw in all these variations. You have to bet perfectly, and you have to do this test out perfectly, like several times before you actually go into the casino, because one slip up and you're back at their mercy.
That's amazing, because that sounds like you're a Jedi. You're training to be a Jedi, and then you use the Force to make your bets at the casino. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm currently pursuing 2 master's degrees at Michigan, and this online blackjack course sounds harder than anything I've done.
Yeah.
Should I just hit up Colin, the Christian card counter? Okay.
You might as well.
Okay, but what do his services cost? I hear about this community. I hear about this Christian blackjack counting coach. He's my muse at this point. What's the damage on getting ready?
It was $500 for a year, and then it was like a $250 annual renewal. I didn't, a little bit of foreshadowing. I didn't end up renewing for this year once it came back around, but it was last Christmas a year ago. I bought it for myself. I was like, I'm gonna do it. I committed to it, and I started training. So.
I mean, that's a beautiful thing. So you were training, we hear 50, 60 hours of watching. And did that include the practice time with figuring out how to count?
Oh, that's 50, 60 hours plus of just practicing.
Okay. So total time in terms of having the idea versus when you decided you were ready to take on a casino, how many hours of labor do you think it was?
Over 100, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 weeks of work, no big deal. And I know we're friends. I feel like I remember you driving up to New England to meet up with someone and learning a bit from them. Did that happen, or am I misremembering?
I think I was planning to at one point, and none of the meetings, like meeting with people, ever came to fruition. I did go, the time that I went to go try my first time was at Harrah's, Philadelphia. So I did drive out to Philly to try it.
Harrah's, Philadelphia, and Harrah is like, I've been to the New Orleans variety. It's probably the most fun casino I've ever been in. I think in large part because they pay out 3-2. So how did you end up picking Harrah's, Philadelphia?
It was just Atlantic City's trashed. It's much like Vegas. It's been, trashed by any kind of advantage players. They call themselves advantage players or APs on like the forums. They're not, we're card counters, but they've been tainted by people trying to, screw over the casinos forever. So they have really tight games with bad rules and all that. Upstate New York wasn't that promising either, and so I just figured I'd try Harrah's, Philadelphia. And there's also something else out there, Sands Casino. No, that's Bethlehem. There's some other casino nearby there that I knew I could also check out. There were a couple out there. So, and I don't know how the New Orleans variation is, but go to Harrah's, Philly, and it's a bunch of people. It's a bunch of like Bam Margera's moms and dads running around.
Yeah, and like you go to a casino in the middle of a city. Worst mistake I ever made in a casino was going to a Detroit one on mushrooms Christmas Day. There were a lot of river monsters in that place.
I've been to the Detroit casinos. They're nasty.
They're very nasty. And, Canada's got great ones and Cuban cigars just across the border. Come on, just go through customs. It's fine. So are there certain states that are better for this approach than others?
I think it is the smaller casinos, and a lot of the people that I was talking with online, it's like, Biloxi, it's just kind of like flyover towns that you wouldn't really even consider, and they have the casinos, and they don't get a lot of advantage players or card counters or anything like that happening that often. Not only that, they're isolated from other casinos. If you go to, a place that has a strip of casinos, they're now contacting each other. They're most likely working with each other, even under different, banners or brands or companies. They're still contacting each other through security. So it's the smaller little casinos out in the middle of nowhere that are probably offering friendlier rules and to try to get people in the door, and they won't really know what hit them until they're down, a couple grand.
All right. So is there anything that went into you selecting Harrah's, or is just like, nah, no Atlantic City?
No Atlantic, yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was just they had good deck penetration. I know Harrah's Philly online, people were saying that they had the best deck penetration.
Okay, and before we get into this, before I have some other questions, just a tangent. Is there a historic example of someone just really finding a great outcome with these tactics?
Well, there's the MIT team that the whole movie was based around. They took, I think, tens of millions of dollars at the end of it from casinos. This guy, Colin, he also ran a group. He studied it. He made a few million off casinos, and he also has an entire group now. And this is, again, like, the documentary is fascinating because it's a church group. They go to church on Sundays, and then they meet after the church group to talk about what casino they're going to go to next, and different tactics. But they have a team bankroll that they go, and they will play individually and report their earnings back, and then they will also go and do like kind of team attacks sometimes as well.
Okay, so they pull together, they share resources, and I know you're something of a lone wolf. What did you wear, and what was your bankroll?
I just wore pretty basic clothing. I think I might have worn a hat.
That's a dead giveaway.
That's a dead giveaway. Now that I see it, now that I look back. Like, if you're looking at between us three right now, who's the card counter? It's Joel. He's wearing a hat.
Yeah, like, I could never do this. I've been caught for every bad thing I've ever done in my life. I wouldn't even be allowed a seat at the table, I don't think. But Brian, we get this guy an earpiece. We tell him what to do. He's our moneymaker right there.
Oh no. I would squeal like in 2 seconds. Like, it'd be like, no, it's not me. It was that church guy, Colin. I didn't know anything.
Okay, so what's your bankroll walking into the casino?
So I went with a couple $1,000, and I had told myself that my entire bankroll for poker was, or I'm sorry, for blackjack was going to be 20,000. I had 20,000 set aside. I said I'd go with that. At $20,000, you have to, part of the conversation that you sit down with Colin and you work out your bankroll, because it's kind of the classic saying that the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. You have to plan to overcome like negative variance and everything. Even if you're doing everything right, you can still lose. Again, I'm at a 2 to 4% advantage. That's not a huge thing. It's not a guaranteed win. So I went with a $20,000 plan. He told me that I can expect to make about $21 an hour playing perfectly. And I'm like, that wasn't that much. So I opted for a more aggressive betting strategy. I figured I would kind of swing for the fences on the first couple thousand. And if I had positive variance, I would make a much larger amount. If I had negative variance, I would burn through, maybe 25% of my bankroll early and then really slow down with the other 15K.
And on a per hand basis, what are the figures commensurately?
I actually had that. Let me see. I can pull that up. But it was basically, I was betting anywhere from $10 or $15. My maximum would be taking two hands at $250 each. So there would be times where you have $500 out on the table. Playing that way also, of course, attracts a lot of heat, as I mentioned. Mm-hmm. If I'm going from playing $10 or $15, sometimes walking away when the deck count can get so bad that you're actually just supposed to not play. You take a phone call, you go get a drink, you find a way to get away from that table because you're at such a statistical disadvantage to the dealer, you just walk away. So from going to that to all of a sudden trying to splay out $500 on the table, that can bring some heat pretty quickly.
Okay, so if you're keeping a live count in your head, right, that's the process of that you perform this task with.
Mm-hmm.
And what number do you have to hit that tells you, okay, time to take a starburst break?
That would be a -2 and below. You could walk away at a -1. So again, you have a running count. Say I get to -6, and I know that there are 6 decks of cards left still. I'm now at a true -1. You just divide it. You take the full count that you have, divide it by the number of decks that are left, and you say, okay, I'm at a -1 now. So you deviate your betting strategy. You deviate the way you're playing the cards based on what that true count is in your head.
Okay, so you're at Harrah's, you're wearing normal clothes, you got a bankroll and an aggressive plan. How does it go?
You're nervous at first. The hardest part about this is doing all this. You're tracking so many things and trying to not act like you're doing that. You're trying to act like an idiot that wants to drink a beer and smoke a cigarette and, complain about his wife and talk about the sports team that's on with the dealer. You're trying to not act like you're taking a math test.
And you weren't drinking during this period, right?
No,
Did
I was
you take
not.
Drinks at the casino table to throw them off your scent?
No, I would just get water. I'd get seltzer or whatever. I would try to be as normal as possible. It's not because some of these people online, they had never even been at a casino. So they're like losing their mind, just like seeing all the glitz and glamour and lights and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very comfortable being in a casino, but it's just the feeling that you don't want to get caught. You don't want them to know that you have the advantage for the first time in your life there.
Wow.
That's what's hard.
I mean, that's crazy. I'm so impressed with this story. I feel like I should give you the professional gambler moniker. But let's be real. That tracksuit kind of smells at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't want it.
Okay, so how do these games go?
I lost money. That's honestly the kicker is I lost money. Again, if I told you every time you flip a coin, right, it's going to be, a coin is 50% heads or tails, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean you can still flip it 20 times in a row and get all heads. Like variances do happen. And so even with perfect play, you're going to have variances, and that's where it comes into the bankroll management and everything else. So I was actually I played for about 2.5, maybe 3 hours. And I think probably my first mistake was I did get there kind of late. I think I arrived maybe around 10:30 p.m. And it was like a weekday night, it wasn't like popping off or anything. So they were able to give a little more direct attention to each individual player. But I played like 2 to 3 hours. I was just kind of up and down, no big wins or losses, but I had made a couple of big bets out there. And I went in there planning on not using my player's card. I do have a rewards card, but I was like, I'm going to go in there totally incognito, baseball cap, jacket, normal guy that's like, I don't want to be recognized, just want to throw some cash down, play for a little bit.
Yeah, because everyone knows when you're going to go to a casino, play blackjack, you got to dress like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Departed. As boring as possible, baseball cap pulled down low. That's the idea.
Yeah. So I was just looking to get some practice in, But, yeah, I was up and down for a couple hours. I think I had a couple big plays. I maybe got like 2 hands of like 50 out on each one. The count got astronomically high. I got excited. I still lost those because that's how it works. You can still lose. So I lost dollars, and in all the excitement I knew I lost the count. I forgot what the exact count was in the cards and everything. So I got up to walk away and leave. And I went to the cafeteria. I called my girlfriend. We were just talking a little bit about how it was going. I got some. The mistake was I used my credit card to buy the pizza at the food court in Harris.
No.
Yeah.
But you lost.
I know.
You lost money. Then you bought a pizza. I mean, I understand. I've been tracked down from stealing a lawn ornament because of a credit card. I can't imagine being tracked down to unsuccessfully count cards. How did they even know you were doing it?
That's the pain in the ass. I that's what I was trying to figure out. But I went and got pizza. Just sat there on my phone, drank something, and then went back to playing. So I walked over to a different bay of tables. I played there for about an hour. And again, my mistake of going too late to the casino is probably maybe 1 a.m. They were closing down that bay of tables. So they came over to me and they're like, hey, we have a spot for you over at this table. We're going to close this table down. So like now I'm getting personalized attention.
I don't like that.
No, they're like, we got a spot for you over at this table. Come on over here. So I moved over there. I'm playing with 2 guys. They're, normal dudes talking, asking what to do, everything else.
I just imagine 3 guys. They're all in hoodies and baseball caps, being nonchalant as possible.
I was trying to watch for it too. That's one thing is you sit there and when people are changing their bet sizes, I know what the count is. I know that I might up my bet a little bit, and then you watch and sometimes the count just like is horrible and I should be walking away, and then someone next to me raises their bet size and I'm like, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's making a worse bet than he even thought to begin with. So they moved me over to this special table with 2 other guys.
Hold up. Let's go into detail on how you are moved. Who approaches you? What exactly do they say? Because I know you know your way around the casino.
Yeah, but this is a semi-normal thing. They do it in a very customer service way of like, hey, we're closing down. They were closing down. There was a bay of tables I was playing at. I think they were lower stakes. So as the casino kind of empties out, they close down those like get people in the door type games where they're like making, letting you do $5 minimum bets. They're like, all right, if you want to keep playing here, $10, $15 minimum per hand. So they were nice about it. They're like, hey, we're closing down this bay, move you over here. We have a seat reserved for you. You can hop right in. So I did that and was playing for maybe like 15, 20 minutes. And someone came up, this, 55-year-old woman just came up and said, Mr. Tolway. And that's when I was like, ooh. Whoa. You don't have my card. Normally, when you sit down at the casino, you give them your player's card, you give them your money, they have you all tracked and everything. I'm like, there's no reason this woman should know my name whatsoever.
Yeah, that is tough. And did you have any dealer interactions that could have been that looking back maybe tipped you off?
No, none at all. No dealer interactions. They didn't have to call over or anything like that. I don't think, at least, that they called, anything over.
And where did she take you?
Just literally a step back. And it was a late night. And at that point, I think I was down about $500 or $600. And I was kind of pissed off that I was getting backed off, they call it. I was getting backed off. And she said, we don't want your action here. So we're going to have you just take your chips over to the cashier. You can cash out there, and we're going to ask you to leave the property, please.
Wow.
So it's done very nicely. It's done very professionally, you know, and they don't want you to make a scene. Like their whole thing is they want to be very quiet. Hey, go and leave. And so but the two guys that I was with, that I was playing with, noticed, and they're like, "What's going on? Why do you have to leave? Did you rob a bank or something?" Like they were making this big stink about it. And I was like, no, it's once you know how to play, they don't want you to play here anymore. And just kind of like gave her a side eye, but.
Well, let's see that side eye. Let's see that glare you gave her. Okay, so you didn't make any money. No. And why did you stop playing?
That night? Because of the security guards.
Did you try this out again any other places? Yeah,
okay, so, well, what happened is I then went over to the cashier. I think I had, purchased maybe $700 or $800 in chips, and I think I had like 100 in chips left. I went and I gave them the chips. Normally, again, I've done this hundreds of times. You walk over with some chips, you hand it to them, they hand you cash back. They said, "We just need your ID to be able to cash this out." And I was like, "No, you don't." And I found out later they absolutely didn't. They had no right to ask for my ID, but they said, "We need your ID to cash this out." So I gave them my ID. I just wanted to get out of there. And she takes my ID, runs over to the phone. Yeah, Richard Tolway, T-O. She's spelling it out. And I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. I'm so screwed. So
don't you share a name with your dad?
Yeah. So he's also probably not allowed back in Harris, Philadelphia.
So you counted cards unsuccessfully and got yourself and probably your father banned from a casino. And did you try this out again anywhere else?
Yeah, so then I went, I think it's Parks Casino. Now that I think it's Parks Casino. So I went that night, which was another mistake. I went, to Parks to try it out again. And I ended up on a table that was a $25 minimum bet, which was pretty hefty for my bankroll. That was going to be stretching my bankroll. And, at that point, I'm kind of tilted. I'm on edge. I'm just like, I'm pissed off and shaking and like, I'm so confused because getting backed off, it's kind of it's like a blessing and a curse all at once, because I'm there to learn. I'm there to make sure I'm doing all the right moves. And that means if someone up in the sky on the cameras says, "This guy's an advantage player," it was kind of like a little badge of honor of like, I am an advantage player now,
That's not bad. Were you connected to the casino Wi-Fi? That's one smoking gun question I have.
No, I was not.
Okay, that's just another way I was worried about it. And like, maybe, did you look at any blackjack related things on your phone or?
No, I wasn't researching anything. Wow, this is getting really tinfoil hat, Joel.
I mean, I'm just trying to my question to ask is whether or not these variables were controlled, and it seems as though they were, because hey, I think I am the layman just like many of our viewers will be. So
yeah, no, it's again, they're not that. It's all very obvious. What you're doing is very obvious. And if you go and join and you read up on these people, on like stories of people getting backed off, you go in some casinos, and if you're using advantage play and you're changing your bet sizing, sometimes the dealers who are on your side, because they don't really care, it's not coming out of their paycheck or anything, but they'll even tell you, they're like, "Dude, it's too obvious." Like some advantage players have been told, like, "I can't believe you're doing this right now, dude. Come on, like it's way too obvious."
And okay, hearing this story, so what happened at Parks?
So I went to Parks. I found this lovely older lady who knew exactly what I was doing. Just an amazing dealer. She knew exactly what I was doing. Okay, so back to that deck penetration, which I know I've hit on a couple times, but the thing is, when I'm counting cards, like I told you, if I'm counting a deck of cards, I can tell you exactly what that last card is going to be, whether it's going to be a 0 through 6, a 7, 8, 9, or a 10 through ace, right?
So you're a magician.
I'm pretty much a magician. So when you take 6 decks, the further you allow me to get to that end of the deck, the more accurate my predictions are. I can pretty much guarantee what those last few cards are after counting 6 full decks. So that deck penetration is important. So she was giving me a really, really light deck penetration. She was only cutting off maybe half of a deck of cards. Normally they cut off anywhere from 1 deck to maybe 2, 2.5, which like 2.5 decks is unplayable. It's leaving way too many cards that you're never going to see, and before you just get a new shoe, right? So she was giving me this amazing dream scenario letting me play almost all the way up to the very end of the deck, and I lost $1,200.
Woo. So they were cool with you losing money while cheating. Harrah's was not. So you lose $1,200. It's late in the day. Do you get kicked out again?
I didn't get kicked out. I just walked away at that point because it was, a couple grand down, I think, on my first adventure. But that's kind of really like where it goes down to is like, would I recommend it? Not really, because you're looking at something that you're going to be playing for hours. And it's, again, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. It's very hard to deal with it. And when I was thinking about renewing my subscription and kind of trying to get back into it, also, this was right before COVID. I think that's the biggest thing of why I stopped doing this was right before COVID lockdowns happened. And so card counting is way harder now because there's way fewer players and there's it's way easier to pay attention to the few players you do have on the floor.
Yeah, and you can't really card count at an online casino, I don't think.
You absolutely cannot, because those casinos actually cut off about half of that stack of cards. So you have 8 decks of cards, you're only seeing 4 decks worth, and the counting is just completely inaccurate at that point.
Okay, so in this adventure that I don't think you had full conclusion on, did you have any lessons that informed your gambling in just moving forward?
I mean, it made me look at expected value a lot. It made me kind of consider that more. And I always try to, use that analysis. But big takeaways, no. I wish I could have made a better run at it. And I might in the future. I mean, it's still like it's on the table. But I do know, I'm watching people on these forums that have put in the work. They've done, 100, 200 hours of play. And your expected value might be on one line, and your actual value may still be way below that. And you're not making anywhere near the amount you thought you'd be making because you have to still get to this long-run game where you're playing hundreds of hours. And to do this for hundreds of hours where you're traveling a lot, you're being deceptive and deceitful the entire time while like running a math computation in your head, it's pretty stressful for, say a $40 an hour job. So...
Yeah, I think so. So you learned your lesson. It might not be for you, but you're still the best gambler I know. You're still the person who taught me how to play poker. So thank you for teaching me the way Colin, the Christian card counter, taught you.
Of course, man. Anytime.
All right, Richie Tolway, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for telling your tales. And, even though you got recognized at a casino, thank you for putting this out there in a video that's going to be published.
Yeah, watch out for me, Harris. I'm ready to lose another couple $1,000s anytime.
All right, so thank you so much, Richie Tolway.
Thanks, Richie.
Wow, Richie Tolway. I thought that was going to be a wild story, and he did not disappoint. I cannot believe he got recognized by buying pizza with a credit card.
A pizza. This casino, they know too much. I don't like it.
Yeah, usually people only go down from buying pizza when, they get diabetes or a heart attack later in life. But props to Richie for getting banned from a casino for doing the same thing. And hey, maybe you can watch the film 21 in a new light. I think one of the side characters is one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in a film. And, I haven't seen her in anything else. So you might enjoy that. And you might enjoy this story. And for all things gambling, for all things related to the colorful world of trying to find an edge, that's why we're here at the Props Network. That's our mission. That's our purpose. And we're doing it every week, every day, every hour, basically, to give you this knowledge, to give you a good user experience. So smash that like, smash that subscribe, and don't buy pizza at Harrah's Casino.